Hey y'all, grown black folks talk. The selected musical wisdom of Moms Mabley, as reminded to me by Stephanie Perry. Now, if you don't know who Moms Mabley is, that doesn't make any sense, and I'll explain it. And if you do know who Moms Mabley is, why in the world is that connected with Stephanie Perry and YouTube content creator of some importance? And then how? Because if you really know who Moms Mabley is, okay. But for those of you who don't know, because I realize I have a younger audience, Moms Mabley was a pioneering black female comedian of the early 20th century, and she lived until 1975. And in living until 1975, she had a career down to the day that she passed away. Hold on, y'all. I gotta actually share the screen here. Moms Mabley. That's her in 1967. She made it all the way down to Ed Sullivan, the Smothers Brothers, and this is her when she was young. She's a beautiful woman. She did some. She was very well known, and lived a very interesting life. And the song that we want to talk about today is "Wild Women Blues." She lived such an interesting life in her time period that she wrote a song called Prove It On Me. And since nobody could and still nobody really can, we can't even get into the complexities of Moms Mabley. There's a lot there, but we have to leave it where she left it. But that's why I say the selected musical wisdom, because the song that I was thinking about was Wild Women Blues. Now, you have to understand the context of Wild Women Blues 20s and 30s. This is the same time that Bessie Smith is still out there as the Empress of the Blues. But if you listen to these two women's songs, see if you notice any patterns that could exist to this day and the difference between them. And consider what was considered wild. I'll get into that with some more detail. Then we'll come to why Stephanie Perry reminded me of this. Because I want y'all to see something. I'm going to link to it, but I want you to see it on the screen. Big as life. I need you to see something, okay? And look at what was considered wild in Moms Mabley's day, and it's still considered crazy now for Black women. But I'm addressing the same issues I was addressing yesterday, just in a non-poke the bear manner today. To take a little historical viewpoint to this, because there are women out there that don't worry about the things that we worry about. And it was Moms Mabley who reminded me of why. But first, I'm going to attempt to render something that the Empress of the Blues used to sing. So, and then my mic and my voice don't work great together, but we're going to move back a little bit and do what we can with it. So this is St. Louis Blues, one verse and half of a bridge. See if you hear some familiar circumstances that you yourself may have experienced dealing with love and relationships in the Black community. And this one is slow because I can't fill in Louis Armstrong for you, so I'll pick up the pace a little bit. St. Louis Blues, one verse, and the reason half of the chorus. Feeling tomorrow like I feel today. Feeling tomorrow like I feel today. Makes me want to pack my bags and make my getaway. Now, why might she want to be getting away? St. Louis woman with a store-bought hair. Stole away my man. I can't find him nowhere. Nowhere. Okay, so Bessie is depressed and has the blues because she's blaming some woman for running off with her man. Notice the problem is not the man, is supposedly this woman with her weave, which suggests that people are texturists and potentially colorists if you go look at a picture of Bessie Smith. So this woman has better hair, better texture. She actually does it, but she went and bought some, and that no good cheating man left, and Bessie has the blues. And the thing about that, the rest of that, I got them St. Louis blues, trying to find out where my man might be. And I pray the Lord above Send it right home to me. This was common because you have segregation going on. This is the time period before women can have a whole lot of employment of their own. Although Black women have always been more employed, we had no choice. Laws were even passed in certain areas so that Black women couldn't stay home because white people could not do without their labor, so it was illegal. Literally, you can look this up. So that left Black women in a terrible position of being dependent on Black men who were not dissimilar. You can listen to blues from this time where men are telling little girls that they knew the previous 2 summers who had developed to pick up their shirts and let daddy see everything that's all up under there. I was at the San Francisco Jazz Festival, and these old blues men were just as happily singing that with little girls passing by. That was a world in which Bessie Smith had the blues. Moms Mabley came back with this. I don't remember the whole song, but this was the thing that stuck with me about it. And it was in, you can find it in Ken Burns Jazz. Wild women don't worry. Wild women don't have no blues. I'm like, what? This blues about not having the blues. What? But you know what was considered wild back then? Moms Mabley was a single mother of multiple children and moved right on with her life. All her children have her last name, and that was wild back then. Moms Mabley stayed single for a long period of time. Like I said, her story is actually complicated, a little bit too complicated. But I happened to notice that when I was looking that up, all of the children have her actual last name. That was wild. It could be considered being wild and distasteful now. But guess what? To the extent that she was single, we actually know from data now. Single women live longer. Single women have less blues. Data says single women live longer and are happier. That's considered wild 30 years ago, 40 years ago. My mother was told that she was an old maid at age 24. You know, her going ahead and finishing getting her teacher's credential and moving on toward getting a master's degree. She was all 24. Men were telling her she was an old maid. Meanwhile, the man trying to get with her was trying to make her his 16th single mother. This was not 1990. This was in the 1970s. So Moms Mabley, 20s and 30s, you have gentlemen trying to get women who have little girls who've developed over the summer to lift up their dress and show daddy what they got up under there. 1970, you have people who coming around trying to make my mother their 16th single mother. In 1950s, around my family, there was a story about that as well. Man going back and forth to San Quentin. 1930, 1950, 1970, and then here's Mom Mabley sitting up here talking about why women don't worry, why women don't have no blues. I'm not recommending that you intentionally become a single mother. It's a very hard life, of course. As a Christian, though, here's what I recommend because the Bible recommends it. The Bible actually does recommend. Do y'all want to see that? For those of you who need to know, the Bible recommends that in times of distress, it's better for you to stay single, and it recommends it to the women as well as to the men. The Bible says it's better for you not to get married. Y'all want to see that? Y'all want to see that? Just so y'all know. Again, what we're talking about is wild. I know it is. I know that y'all, a lot of you seeing this, be like, what? What? Yeah. Data, Moms Mabley, and the Bible, maybe we're on to something. I don't say that Moms Mabley was right all the time. I do definitely did not say that. But there is something that you need to know about here. I'm actually going to go ahead and show this to you. We're going to start at the very, we're not going to read through it, but I will leave you this information just so you have it. In the straight up NIV, y'all think the KJV is hard to deal with? Check this out. The Corinthians had some questions for Paul. Now, for the marriage rule, it's good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. From the gate! From the gate, y'all. But, verse 2, since sexual immorality is occurring, every man should have sexual relations with his own wife and each woman with her own husband. This is the biblical bound for marriage. starts with the duty being put on the man. But that's not what we came here to look at. I just thought because that's where it starts, that we should establish this conversation. But it is better. It is better. This is a long passage on marriage. However, here it is, way down here, verse 32. I would like you to be free from concern. And in verse 31, we see, for the world in its present form is passing away. At this time, the Roman world was going through it. I would like you to be free from concern. Why, women, don't worry. We just said this. We're not talking about having Bessie's blues, though. An unmarried man is concerned about the Lord's affairs, how he can please the Lord. But a married man is concerned about the affairs of this world, how he can please his wife, and his interests are divided. An unmarried woman or virgin is concerned about the Lord's affairs. Her aim is to be devoted to the Lord in both body and spirit. But a married woman is concerned about the affairs of this world, how she can please her husband. I am saying this for your own good, not to distract you, but that you may live a right way in undivided devotion to the Lord. So even the Bible says that for many people, it's better to be single because you're going to be in a tug of war. And this is for Christian marriages where people are supposed to know how to do all of Ephesians 5. Maybe Moms Mabley was onto something, although I don't think she knew. But maybe Moms Mabley was onto something. Maybe a lot of what we have been sold, the game is sold, not told. Maybe a lot of what we've been told as Black women is not correct. Maybe our purpose of being here is not to have the blues, as men do not even think about 1 Corinthians 7:1. Maybe that's not the play right now. Maybe we need to really get back to the fact that it's okay for us to be human beings and enjoy our lives and have undivided devotion to what we are called to in this world. I realize everybody's not a Christian, but how often have we as women even sat down and even figure out what we wanted to do compared to what we were told everybody else told us we had to do? And that brings me to why Wild Women Blues came back to mind today. I want you to see something. I was on Stephanie Perry's page today, her community page, um, and I saw something that struck my attention. And of course, here it is. It struck my attention. And I want you to let this roll by your mind. And then we're going to roll up and read what she had to say. Shout out to Stephanie Perry. I've never spoken to her directly, but her content has changed my life in many ways, even though I'm not planning, my commitments at this moment would not allow me to leave the country permanently. But I'll get into what I gained from knowing her, from knowing of her content and listening to what she had to say. But before I tell you what it was, I want you to now it is again, we've already established that it's considered wild for Black women to live and have their own lives. It was considered wild in 1930. It was considered wild in 1950. It was considered wild in 1970. It's still considered wild. You have a whole manosphere out there still trying to tell you why you can't do that. And if you don't get a man between 18 and 25, even though your lifespan will still get you to Moms Mabley's age of 81, take good care of yourself. You don't have any purpose in this life beyond age 35. Even though you're going to live, and the people having so much to say about this, they are stopping. Actuaries say 72, but my dad is 86. A couple of his, peer group of righteous men who are still hanging around. Now that's really should be 55, 62. And we see these men who are doing all this complaining and trying to convince us we ain't worth nothing unless we were one of them, are leaving here before age 60. I want to show you something. I want to show you some women that don't have no blues. On this weekend, well, we have to be concerned about what two colors of men may choose to do. I want to show you some women that don't have no blues. I want you to take this in. I'm not going to read it, first of all. I want you to notice the colors, the textures, the ages of these happy women and the locations that they're in. And the freedom that they appear to be experiencing is not that they just pose for the camera. Look at that glow. These are women that Stephanie Perry has enabled to live a better life. Now, I want to tell you where she met all these people. This week, I got to meet a whole bunch of friends in person for the first time, from Kenya Ramsey, who Rashida Dow, interviewed back in 2019, to Dr. Kamani Norrington and Ivana Robinson, who are on my channel just this month. ROI, the Millionaire Summit was a wonderful experience. Stop right there. Millionaire Summit. This woman has had the Exodus Network meetup and workshop. Um, she runs the Exodus Network with, I think, Rashida Dow, and Adelia Borshade, and they talk with the Exodus Collective, which is their counterparts from the Black British side of the world. These are people that have put up enough content for you to be able to figure out. Adelia Borshade, Picking Girl Travels the World, will do consultation to tell you how much you would need to move abroad. Stephanie Perry has a video about moving to a less expensive city but safe while you decide what you're going to do next. And all three of these women provide content and access. I also need to give a shout out to Black Women Making Money, who put out there that there's a whole Women in Blockchain conference, and I went to the website for that, and there's a whole lot of Black women involved with that. And of course, you have humble me, who's sharing from my crypto journey. I can't give you financial advice, but I can at least show you that there are some doors open and maybe help you a little bit on your way if you go the sweat equity route. So I wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for Stephanie Perry, though. So let's get back to what she had to say, okay? Now, remember, she's giving Black women access that they do not need any man's permission. Anybody, Black men talk about a high value man, a 6-figure man. She's at a summit of 7-figure, 8-figure, and 9-figure people. ROI, starting here. The Millionaire Summit was a wonderful experience. At least 10 times, someone walked up to me and said, "Are you Stephanie, the house sitter?" Listen, that means I'm doing something right. That something is I'm putting YouTube to work for me. My channel reaches people I never could alone. I'm collaborating with the right women, so I bring in the right women to my community. If you know that you're just a few collaboration partners away from your business bringing you clients on autopilots, join Rashida and me on Get Your Next 3 Clients 6-day challenge is starting on February the 12th. ExodusSummit.com challenge. Okay, now, like I said, she's actually helping women get the clientele that they need to be able to live a digital life. Okay? This challenge is not free. It's not. I'm sure it's quite it's worthy of the time that's being spent and that this woman has put into it and her partners have. However, this is what you get. I'm not promoting the event. I'm just reading what's here. You get individual feedback from us, and you get community with the other women in the group coaching sessions, aka your future collaboration partners. If your marketing strategy needs help, get help. And if you want YouTube coaching, my next YouTube Success Challenge is February 27th to March 3rd. Vicarious.com challenge. Y'all, you can go over to vicarious.com. Let me do this. I'm going to put the link to this for you to check this out. I'm not being paid to promote it, is what I'm saying. I'm just reading what's there. If you go through Stephanie Perry's channel, you will find all kinds of receipts. If I was to summarize from the point of view of someone who is not choosing to leave the country right now, because again, I have responsibilities here that will not allow me to uphold my duties to the Lord Jesus Christ and therefore to the family he's given me, that will not allow me to leave right now. But here's the thing that you find out listening to Stephanie Perry's channel. This constant demand that America, we'll take the United States of America, just to not have to get into all the little arguments that we're worried about this week. Always demanding that you are only valuable for the amount of work that you can produce. And basically listening to Stephanie Perry and really listening to what's going on is like, first of all, you don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You're here, you're a human being, you exist. Sit with that. You have value because you are a human being. Second of all, you do not have to keep showing up at these jobs that aren't loyal to you in any way. There are ways that you can get streams of income, and even she did a video on rivers of income for Black women. There's a lot of information there. There's more than a year's worth of information that I've been taking in, and those years worth of information, in addition to life coaching, The combination helped me to realize there's not a lot of stuff I'm holding up that is hurting me, and I'm going to let all of it go because I am going harder for people that have no intent of doing right by me or any of the other women who are trying to get some good positive change here. Let me step on out of this. Interestingly, not this time last year, but a little bit earlier, Stephanie Perry came up on the Themis and Thought show and she asked the question, how are we going to be able to center? Well, I don't think we can center Black men and Black women at the same time in the context of if Black women need rest and peace and relief, and Black men who at least at that time were coming up on Themis and Thought were not interested in offering it, then there's no way to do both. Stephanie Perry has made her decision. Now, this is a United States veteran. This is not just someone that sits at other people's houses. This is someone who served her entire country, came back and realized that this country and the community offered very little to support her, and then decided, okay, watch this. I'm going to take what I have to offer. I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to go see what there is to see. And if I can figure out that I don't have to live this way, then I'm going to help every Black woman I can. And that's what she ended up doing. I'm going to say this again. Stephanie Perry, I salute you. There can only be one Harriet Tubman. Nobody goes up there with Mother Harriet. But I see you looking at that model and providing Black women ways to freedom. I see you. I hope you see. I don't know if you'll ever see this video, but I want you to know that. I want the rest of you to know. I want you to look at it again. Okay, just look at it again. I want you to see it again. You see different ages, different skin color, different hair types, different sizes. Stephanie Perry and I, she's a lot taller than I am, but we about the same size. We're big, beautiful Black women. Notice all the different, all the different people, all the different kind of women that certain people have been online telling us they ain't worth nothing. I want you to look at it. You ain't gotta look at me. Look at that. Remember where they were. They're at a millionaire summit. We're not even supposed to be able to get in there. We're supposed to be happy to have a six-figure man. We're not supposed to be able to go to summits for millionaires where we can be around seven-figure people and stand toe to toe and be loved for who we are. We're not supposed to be able to do any of that. We were all told that we were just supposed to be happy just being a woman and being a servant and a slave to someone. No. Why women don't worry. Why women don't have no blues. It's wild to consider Black women at millionaire summits. It's wild to consider that Stephanie Perry, Adelia Borshade, Rashida Dow are not worried about the things that we are worried about this weekend. That was why it came back to mind. I looked at those pictures and she's coming out of the millionaire summit and I thought Stephanie Perry is not worried about what's going on in Memphis. And neither of the women that she has helped to find community around the world. By the way, when I say community around the world, I don't mean around fornicating around the world. I don't even mean going to find a woman who's poor that you can marry and then live like the big time patriarch because of the American dollar. I'm talking about Black women going to find a way to be able to breathe and rest. I told you, Adelia Borshade, Pick Your Girl Travels the World, will help you figure out how much money you need to move. Every year, Stephanie Perry and Vicarious, I think it's Vicarious that she does this through, sends a Black woman on a year-long sabbatical. Every year. Now you figure with inflation how much money that those women raise to do this for some woman every year. Every year, I've posted information for her about places that you can stay in the world for $500 a month, and some of them are not that far away from here in the United States of America. They're accessible. But imagine being able to know what it would take for you to be able to go somewhere for 3 to 6 months and just be like, oh. And then actually have time to figure out what is it that I want to do. Not what all these different people have told us. What would it be like to be able to do that 1,000 miles across the border into a peaceful place that people are not checking to demean Black women? When Black men who are reasonable, honorable men go abroad, I mean, I followed 4 cycles of life. The person's name is Kareem. He's married, beautiful family here. But when he talked about going to Ghana and seeing Black men on the money and not standing out and just feeling a relief. There are some black men who that is something that they're doing. I have a friend of mine who is going to Ghana for his birthday to be somewhere where being black is not a curse. I can understand that. Imagine what it is like to be go somewhere and being black is not a curse, and then being a woman does not mean you are the servant of the cursed. The women that Stephanie Perry, Rashida Dowd, Adelia Borashade, and their counterparts in the British black parts of the diaspora are not worried about the things we're worried about this weekend. They don't have to sit up here and wonder what the interaction is going to be when two terrible events have finally met in a confluence where certain amounts of black male violence that we like to ignore have now collided with police violence. They're not worried about that. They have achieved Moms Mabley's level because it is again wild to consider that dark-skinned black women, older dark-skinned black women, are standing right up there with larger white, well not white, but light-skinned black women with a little bit more white in them, and are sitting up at a millionaire summit together and enjoying each other's company and not fighting back and forth among themselves over some man. They don't have the St. Louis blues, to go back to the Empress of the Blues. They don't have to deal with any of that. Moms Mabley would smile real big. A lot of the stuff we've told we have to be afraid of, a lot of stuff we've told we have to be subject to, a lot of foolishness we're supposed to have to accommodate to have a life is not necessary. A lot of the fears and the worries that we are dealing with are not necessary. The people, the knowledge, the tools, the skills exist. And even for someone who is not leaving the country, I owe a tremendous debt to Stephanie Perry, Rashida Dow, and Adelia Borashade, who showed that another kind of life is possible. And I should also put in Alicia Renice, the artist, who comes from an artist perspective and lets us know that we don't need all the consumerism that we think we need either. The minute you stop chasing trying to be an American slave mistress and having everything that she has, you do not therefore need to be with a man who either is acculturated as seeing Thomas Jefferson as the ideal of the same color or of your color. And what you will find as you detoxify, because one of the things Stephanie Perry says, and was very instrumental to me, is that we don't bring the bad habits of the United States with us when we learn how to travel across the world. Well, if we can unlearn those habits to travel across the world, we can unlearn those habits here as well. We don't have to leave. It's much more difficult. There's more temptation. But okay, what are the bad habits? Consuming everything, including the people around you, to chase down some status that was gained by oppression so that you can validate the emptiness in your soul because you do not know who you are, you do not know who God is, you do not know what peace is, you do not know what love is, you do not know what rest is, you do not know the things that you need to know to live as a human being. You do not know who you are for that reason. And all of the consuming and all of the oppression and all of the things will never satisfy that hole in your soul. But if you could take enough time to just be able to have some peace and rest, then maybe you could come to terms with, okay, this is what I lack and this is what I need to fix up on the inside. And once I've done that, then maybe I can get some clarity on what I need to do and silence all these other voices. If it is possible to detox in preparation of leaving, it is also possible to detox and stay. And to me, that was very helpful because that helped me to see that a lot of the stuff that I was allowing people to overuse me, and my life coach, Coretta from mymentor.life, was also very helpful with this. All this stress that people put on us as women, none of that was necessary. I learned how to back up and let people take care of themselves. Will you believe that the coddled people will grow up? That institutions that don't know what to do with themselves will find a way? Chattel making people in institutions will find another chattel because everybody doesn't learn this at the same rate. Like I said, there'll never be another Harriet Tubman. We leave Mother Harriet in that class of honor by herself. But there are women that showing us a better way is possible. If you are a Christian woman, I just showed you 1 Corinthians 7. So you running out and having to have a husband is not God's requirement if you in fact the exact opposite. To possess your vessel and honor chastely. Now, if you can't contain, you have to get married, but that's not good for you. So necessarily, not necessarily the best for you in times of present distress, because it's very clear in 1 Corinthians 7, it's better for you not to do that. So what you need to do is go to the Holy Spirit of God and learn how to mortify that flesh. And I know nobody wants to hear that. I had a long, interesting conversation about that because people do not think that they can control their desires. And so we end up in situations we don't need to be in. However, I recognize the human need for sex and to reproduce is very, very strong. It's not an easy trouble. It's not what the Bible asks is not easy. It can't be done without the power of the Holy Spirit. So I'm not judging, but I'm just saying, look at the results for the Black community because nobody practices sexual discipline. And who gets left holding the bag? The women. And then the children that you raise don't respect it because all they know is I don't have everything I need, and it's the fault of the person who's there to be blamed. It is not necessary to continue the cycle. If you're listening to me, you have access. I'm going to put Stephanie Perry, I'm going to put that link and you can find her channel link to it. You have access. You're 2 steps away from people that go to millionaire summits. You're 2 steps of people that help Black women get to these things. All that we're talking about is wild. The whole idea that we are even allowed to do this without some man standing on my shoulder telling me what I can and cannot say is wild. It would have been wild in 1970. It would have been wild in 1930. It's still kind of wild now. But you know what? Wild women don't worry. Wild women don't have no blues. Y'all need to listen to Moms Mabley on that one. Now, like I said, it's selective musical wisdom. We can't follow Moms Mabley all the way down the road on the Family Friendly channel. Nope. Can't do it. But Moms Mabley was on to something there. It is wild for Black women to be able to consider their lives without being enslaved to the total American mindset and all of those people around us who are trying to get things based on the total American mindset. It's wild to think that you can live in this country and not be, Black women are the biggest consumers in the country. A whole lot of people have an interest in us not slowing down in that. A whole lot of people. A whole lot of people trade on that definition, but none of that is necessary. May I suggest that you get just a little wild and step out of the box? Because again, something that you need to think about. It's one thing to be on a luxury cruiser and move the deck chairs around to get them where you like. We can go back and forth with these arguments that we're going through and the things we may or may not see this weekend. Back and forth about men and America and who's at fault and all the rest. But when you're out here moving deck chairs around, you better be careful. I'm sitting too far back. Be careful moving deck chairs around that you're not moving deck chairs on the Titanic. You can stay in the box if you want to. You can keep on having these arguments. You can do it till the cows come home. But room for you to be able to afford not paying attention to the women that are out here that actually are giving you things that are going to help you. By the way, some of the people that Stephanie Perry has helped, there's some of them are single women, some of them are partnered, some of them are even married. There are even one of them has an interview with a man who took some of this information and moved off to Grenada. Even it's not specific to, you don't have to be a Black woman to do this. These are things that you can apply from any direction. Stephanie Perry focuses on women, and because I have Black women as my audience, I focus on women. But Anything that we're talking about is available for anybody to do. Again, the information is available. The fact that you can better your situation is available. The thing that's going to be hard to find is time for you to make up for it. If you're getting the information now is when you need to apply it. I hope you do. I can't make you do anything. And I know that some of the stuff that Stephanie Perry and some of the stuff I even talk about is kind of wild to me sometimes. Because again, some of you've never heard this before. But do you want to do you want to be sitting around here worrying about the things Bessie Smith had to worry about? Or would you rather find out about why wild women have no blues? No blues. I'm sure Mom Mabley had some unhappy moments. Every life choice you make has to have some compensations. Nothing is perfect. But feeling tomorrow, the first verse of that song, Bessie Smith said, I hate to see the evening sun go down because it makes me feel like I had my last go round. This woman feels like she about to die. But you rather deal with that or have no worries, or at least have less worries. What do you want to do? It's up to you. But the gateway to get past this artificial wall that people who could be listening to this information and bettering themselves as well, because you're trying to put up, that gate's been open. Stephanie Perry's been doing this for a minute. The gate has been open for a minute. I want you to see yourself here. We'll close with this. On this weekend, where we may or may not be going through another societal cataclysm over the behavior of certain men, this is other women's reality for a weekend. Women were Black. Do you see them worried? Choice is yours. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.